Hey y'all, it's me. I know it's dark, but oh well, deal with it. I just had some thoughts, and yeah, I'm just going to share them because I was already sharing it out loud. But if my life was like a Truman Show, you might have been hearing. But I'm like, I'm bold enough to say it on a platform, so fuck it. I was just thinking. I was on Twitter actually, and I seen Normani had posted, I guess, for her birthday, and I'm like, girl, you look fabulous, of course, but like, where is you at? And my conspiracy theory is that somebody was doing some roots on her to try to hold her back. And yeah, that's just like the top of the conversation, like just being held back. Sometimes it's for a reason, like, okay, maybe it's not the right time right now. Like, okay, I feel like in an instance where it actually worked out for the better would be, again, don't need to defend these artists, but I'm just saying it how I see it. The instance with SZA putting out SOS. Everybody was like, "Where the album at? Where the album at? When you gonna put out the album?" And she was like, "The album done." So I'm waiting on Punch. Punch taking forever. This and that. And eventually, the rollout for that album was immaculate. And I mean, it what with the record, it broke the record for being the longest in on the top 200 Billboard of albums for like, I don't know, for like, no, I think that was Control, but that also had that same record too. Like, I will say, like, SZA's a really solid album artist where people really fuck with the album. Cause I was really thinking about this as a tangent, and I'm gonna get back to my point. I was thinking like, what's the classic song off of Control? I feel like it's a classic album and we love the aesthetic of the album in that moment and it was really big. But I'm like, what's the song off that album that's like, yo, this is her um I don't know. I don't know what. I'm trying to pick a song for a reference. Like this is her Crazy in Love. Or you know what I mean? Like what's the signature song off that album? Me personally, I love the Love Galore, but I know that wasn't like the biggest record. I mean, it is a big record, but I feel like when we think about the Control album, like I don't know, like the Weekend was a big song, wasn't my favorite, but I know it was a huge record. And I mean, there's a lot of songs on there that got really big too, like the Say It record, Broken Clocks. Um, I mean, I feel like there's a bunch of like popular songs, but I'm trying to think like what's the classic song. I just feel like it's an overall classic album. Like I feel like people appreciate SZA for her like her body of work. Um, and I guess anyway, that's a tangent. But I bring that up to say like I feel like that's the one instance where everybody was like, "Where's the SZA album?" And then by the time it came out, and it just was super successful. And I feel like that was an instance where the wait was worth it, and it was a big success for her. I feel like with these other girls, like, the fuck is the holdup? Like what's going on? And I have my conspiracy theories, and I'm just gonna say the things that everybody, you know, are not saying out loud, and I'm just going to say it. For one, when it comes to Normani, I'm like, the thing about Normani that pisses me off is that like all the things that you need to be like the perfect pop star she's got. And the thing is like, okay, she might not be like the strongest vocalist, and that's okay. She doesn't need to be, but she's a amazing dancer, and she's got the look, and she's a really dope performer. And not only that, but her creativity is really dope and the aesthetics is on point. Like, and her visuals is dope. Like when she has the time and the budget and the energy, we get projects like Motivation and Wildside. Those videos are phenomenal. I mean, it took some time in between those projects, but either way, they're still dope projects. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't listen to Dopamine. I didn't listen to Dopamine. It's probably a dope album. I heard some people like, some mixed reviews, but for the most part, people like it. But my thing is like, either way, by the time that album came out, like I wasn't really invested to really, really check for it. Like, but I still want to see her win though. Not that I need to root for these artists because are these artists rooting for me? I don't know. Um, but I'm just saying, I want to see her do well. And then also because like, colorism is a thing in our community and she's a brown skinned girl and, like a darker skinned girl. And to see her as like a beautiful darker skinned girl representing for the dark skinned girls that probably heard like, oh, this is good for, oh, you look pretty for a dark skinned girl. Or, or you're not pretty enough or whatever the case may be, like, all that shit. Um, I just like the whole like just the potential of everything, and it's not too late. I feel like she's still young. You know what I mean? Like it's not too late for her. Like I feel like if she really wants it, she has it. But I feel like there's had when she was in that run and she was in the forefront, I know she had to like fight for it, and there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes and like, and then that time where she was supposed to perform, I think at the BET Awards and then ended up getting injured. Like, I don't know. I feel like somebody was trying to put some roots on her. And mind you, she's from New Orleans. So I don't know. I don't know, girl. But I'm just saying, it's not too late, but it frustrates me because she's got all the things, like, extremely talented and all the things to be like this generation's kind of like Janet-esque artist. Like she has that. And she even got the Janet cosign. But it's funny. She's got the Janet cosign and Chloe's got the Beyonce cosign, and quiet as it's kept, apparently there's, beef among the legends. They not gonna say it out loud, but if you know, you know. And I'm just gonna say something else out loud. If you there's a lot that you can decipher in some of these performances. And I feel like that Christmas performance that what's the name Beyonce had did. There's a little bit of choreo in there that just reminded me of someone else's choreo. I was like, this is giving a little Janet right here. I don't know. I don't know if that's intentional. Could be a coincidence, which I don't believe. But, whatever. And I know sometimes the legends can be a little shady. And in code, and I see it. I be peeping it. But I know maybe I wasn't supposed to say that, but I don't care because bitch, is y'all gonna pay me? No? Okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna say it. So anyway, um but yeah, so I just get pissed off because I'm like, Normani's got all the things and you're in the industry. You know what I mean? You got it. And I'm sure like there's probably more to it where it's like, the label that she's with and her team and all. But I still feel like it's not too late for her. I feel like she could come out with a really bomb album if she has everything ready and prepared and could just roll it out. And something that I noticed that Dawn does, like I know she don't get enough credit. I know recently she was in the media because of the whole like Diddy trial thing, and I'm not going to talk about that because I'm not following it, but I can't get away from it because like my timeline, everybody just going to be talking about it, and artists that I follow somehow are adjacent or whatever, and she happens to be one of them. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But what I will say, something dope that I remember seeing Dawn say in an interview is that, before she rolls out a project, all the things are done. Like the album is done, the visuals are done, and all that takes time, like to style it, to get the look, to get the choreo, to get the dancers and film it and all these things. And even in certain projects where she might not have the budget as she had in other projects, her method is so on point. And then again, she's independent. But even still, but she'll have all the things done. Like all the videos are done. And then the rollout would just be like, all right, so we gonna put this video out here, push this song, and then like and in the next month we gonna push this song in this video, and then 2 weeks after that we gonna push this song in this video, and we gonna put this little snippet out, and then the album gonna roll out. Like, and I'm just like, yes, organization to a rollout. And I would love to do that for myself, but sometimes I'm we're not talking about me. My situation is a little different, a lot of different, but I'm just saying, like, if you have the means to do it, if you have a team, a budget, support, a fan base, looking for you to do the things, like, and some of these artists that have the platform, even if it's not the platform that they want and deserve, but if you somewhat have the means to like do it, like, man, just do that shit and like run and go, and especially, And I get it, like it's not always easy depending on what label you on and whether they give you a full budget or not. Because I mean, I did see Normani say several times that she had to pay for the Wild Side video because they wasn't giving her the budget that she really needed. But that video was amazing, and it was a hit when it came out. And I know when that video came out, that was, I forget which year it was. It was a few years ago. It was like not long after the whole COVID thing. But I remember when that video came out, I watched that shit that like several times because it was just so good. From the choreography, the outfits, the different scenes. Like it was like, go watch that Wild Side video. Go watch that video and tell me that shit ain't amazing. You know? Like she bodied that. And then, but I know it was a lot that she had to do to like build up to that too. Like, certain people already had certain slots and performances, like award show performances. And, she only got the chance to perform at, I think, what was it? The MTV Awards, because Lord was supposed to perform and backed out. And so then they gave her the gig. And she ended up having like the best performance that night, which was crazy. And mind you, it wasn't even the full performance because there was some discrepancies that was going on. And, certain slideshows or whatever that was supposed to be working wasn't working. But it didn't matter. And the thing is, she was like, when she said in an interview, like, when she thinks back to it, it's like traumatic because like a lot was going wrong behind the scenes. But I'm like, us, the public that just saw what she did, she slayed that shit with the crumbs that she had to work with. And I'm like, well, if this is what you can do with the little bit of resources that you got, girl, like you got it. You got it. You got the talent, you got the vision, you got the look. The only thing was like the fair record, I could have did without that. I felt like she could have gave us another like choreo song, and maybe I know she was trying to switch it up a little bit, but I'm like, nah, girl, you got, I don't know, just while the iron is hot, and we know your strong suit is choreography and creativity, and I know it costs a lot of money, but like, man, like if you really want it, you and that's another thing too. Like I feel like, she's also said like, and I only know this because I would watch the interviews and this is what they be saying. But she was saying like her whole thing was like feeling imposter syndrome because she wasn't supposed to be the girl. Like even with the whole like Fifth Harmony thing, Camila Cabello, she was like the lead vocalist kind of, and like she's got the stronger voice and she is a big artist. Like she's still, I think, the bigger artist out of the group. But Normani wasn't supposed to be technically, by industry standards, wasn't supposed to be like the breakout star, but she was. And and my whole thing is like, girl, I don't know who doing whatever voodoo, but girl, get your voodoo up and knock them motherfuckers out the fucking way. Like if you want it, it ain't too late. Like you still young, you still, if she came out with a bomb album, this was the point that I was getting to when I brought up Dawn. If she came out with a bomb album, the album already done, visuals already done. And if you got to pay for the visuals, then you just got to pay for the visuals. Do it on a budget. It ain't got to be as elaborate as Wild Side, but it's got to be creative. And, and just like body the choreography. And, or maybe if not even that, but just have like a really hot song. Because Wild Side, even without the music video, it's a dope song. Like the song is good. Like, and that's another thing. If you want to pull from, the Janet book, people could say whatever they want about like Janet's voice or whatever. Like she might, like, again, another person who not the strongest vocalist, but her discography is, unmatched. As amazing of a performer and dancer as Janet is, and how she has iconic performances in music videos and fashion moments, you can just play the Janet CD and it be dope. Like the music by itself is good. And I'm like, okay, even if you're not the strongest vocalist, but the music is solid, and then it just so happens that where you really deliver and slay is the visuals and the dancing, that's all you need. You ain't got to do a whole bunch of ad libs and belting and all that stuff. Just have some smooth ass, cool ass music. And then the visuals just happen to be like some extra dope shit. And you know, and if you just got the whole package and you got the thing ready, and again, kind of like what happened with SZA, where everything was already done and they was just waiting for the right time to release it. And she like, I'm waiting on Punch. Everybody asking me where the album at. I done already made like 100 songs. It's 20 songs on the album. We did all the photo shoots and the music videos. We already got the cover. I don't know why Punch is taking so long. You know, no shade. I'm just saying that's what was being said out here. That was in little docu videos back when I was checking for it. You know, and but shout out to Punch. He, however he planned it, was like, all right, we're gonna put this out around the holidays, and not many people can put out their projects during the holidays and it be successful. But he knew SZA was the artist to do that, and it was perfect because the rollout was around the time of, you know, the holidays and the, you know, the Christmas episode of SNL, and you know, and all of that stuff. And then it's Christmas time, so even if, you know, there's holiday music out here, her album was number one or whatever it was. I don't know if it was that or not, but it was up there, you know. But the rollout was smart. I'm like, as long as everything is done and then you strike at the right time, and it's like, all right, this gonna be the video, this gonna be the single, and maybe have like at least 3 or 4 songs done. I'm giving the blueprint like I'm in the industry. But I just pay attention to the shit. My thing is like, if I had the resources, then y'all couldn't tell me nothing. But you know, I gotta fight for scraps out here, you know, and it is, and I don't have a team. I am the team, you know. So there's that. But anyway, if anybody heeds to my advice, because you know, what do I know? But y'all hoes be copying my ideas anyway. So I'm like, all right, let me give you the playbook in my eyes that I feel like from the people who have done it, from the mainstream success of a SZA all the way to like the independent rollout of self-made and self-created Dawn Richard. You know, when everything is done, when all the projects are done, and then you could just roll that shit out, I feel like that's the best method. And you know, but if you got that strong first single, something that's an undeniable bop that everybody could, like, you know, dance to or really get with, regardless, like, that's based on your vibe. Like if you're a ballad artist, then sure, like if you like a Adele or something like that, then yeah, all right, we know you for the slow songs, so that's fine. But if you, whatever it is, that's the strong suit, start with the strong suit, and then give that to us like twice back to back. You know, like, all right, we know you good with the bops and the choreo, give us a bop and choreo single, and then like, just to play it safe, give us another one, and then slow it down a little bit, you know, depending on the time of year. Like if you doing the summer thing, or you releasing in spring leading up to the summer, give us a summer bop. Or maybe give us a summer bop in the winter and let it build up into the summer. I don't know how it rolls out, but I'm just saying, like, you know, like, and just have it ready. And so like, all right, we're gonna put this song out, we're gonna put this video out, this out, all right, it's doing numbers, people really like it, they enjoy it. And all right, we already got the next single out. You know, if you was thinking about doing a slow song because it's like, I don't know, spring and like wedding season, and that's the wave that you're trying to go for, then cool, do that. Or depending on the reception of that first single, can let you know, all right, you know what, since we got these 3 songs already ready, like in the cut, in the vault, ready to go, based on the success of the first single, can determine whichever the second single going to be. And then just like, I don't know, just like roll that shit out. I don't, you know, but I get it. It requires like a team. You need dedicated people. You need people you could trust. And, you know, you need to have all the resources to really be able to do that. Cause like it takes money, it takes time. And I know it's not easy. It's easier said than done. But like, man, like y'all girls are like, you're in the industry. You know, you have, even if it's not the platform that you want and feel you deserve, like you still have a platform. And there's independent artists out here that's doing it with nothing, you know, that would like kill to be in your spot, you know. And some of y'all got it, like you got the talent, like fuck the imposter syndrome, like fuck all that shit, get that shit out the fucking way. Like, imposter for what when you got the talent? Get out of here. Like, just slay these bitches. Like, damn, you know? And who am I? And mind you, I'm an artist. I'm a creative, but I'm the type of creative that want to see the girls do well, you know? And okay, so that's my tangent on Normani. That was pretty much the point that I wanted to make. And the same thing with Chloe. Like, I feel like at one point, and Ethan and I have instigated it in some of my rants or whatever in TikTok, but that's because for personal reasons. Just certain creative integrity or intellectual properties that just happen to whatever. Anyway, but either way, like at one point I was rooting for these girls because they're talented and because like they're black girls in these spaces and there's room for everybody to shine. Like that whole thing of like it needing to be one is whack and corny, and it's just not true because white artists don't do that. Just as much as there's a Taylor Swift, there's a, I don't know, whoever else is out there. um I don't know who else is popular. Just like there's a Taylor Swift, there's a Ariana Grande. They do different things, but they both out there still taking space, holding space, and at the top of their game doing what they do. And I mean, I don't know, maybe there's behind the scenes stuff that goes on with them because honestly, I don't follow them like that. I like Ariana for her voice, but I don't listen to all the albums. I'm not gonna lie. I vaguely see it like whatever's out there. But I'm not like 100% like checking for her respectfully. And I don't check for Taylor. But she's one of the bigger artists, and I happen to know more of her songs than I like that I be thinking I do. I'm like, damn, okay. And she's got a solid discography, and she's got really good songs. But they both shine, and I don't know, maybe there are some behind the scenes things where it's like, all right, are we gonna book Ariana or are we gonna book Taylor? And I don't know, maybe they both be getting booked. Either way, they both are extremely successful. And just like how it's not a whole competition thing of like, oh, it can only be one versus the other, you know, it could be both. And I feel like that could be the same thing for the R&B girls, you know? And I'd be wanting to see that. And I feel like with Chloe, she was getting that push at first, but she still was like ironing her, or sharpening her blade and figuring out her, like, figuring out the aesthetics because this was when I was paying attention around the time where, she was changing up the look and doing the whole like sexy girl thing. And that's cool. Like, as a former awkward black girl, getting comfortable into, who you are and your style and your swag and really just finding out your wave, and when you're doing that in public in front of people, like it's a lot. And then of course everybody gonna have something to say. I know I had something to say. So, but then at the same time, like having some empathy and really thinking like how much what that would probably feel like for her perspective, it's probably a lot to deal with. And mind you, you're still trying to figure out yourself as an artist, like what's your sound and what's her sound separate from her sister, even though I feel like her and her sister should have put out another album before they did that, and or should have waited to put Ungodly Hour out after before, after things kind of warmed up after COVID. I feel like them rolling out an album in COVID, because that album could have been better. Not the album could have been better. The album was dope. But I feel like the rollout for that album could have been better. But they were rolling out an album in the midst of COVID and nobody knew what the fuck was going on. And they was just kind of like doing a thing. And they did dope for what was there. But, I just felt like, who did a smart rollout? Their boss, who said, we gonna put y'all album out and we gonna test and see what the fuck is going on with this COVID thing. Because they're smaller artists. So it's not like if they were to do a tour and they start to open up these venues, it's not like they gonna need to be in arenas. They're gonna be in the smaller venues. And then we'll test run and see what that process is like. Do they do testing in the building? Do people need to go in with the cards and all of this stuff? So by the time Renaissance rolls out, she already know what's going on with the COVID streets, and can do the stadium tour because it's Beyonce, and know that people are going to pay to see it and know what the protocol is at that point, But I'm like, all right, that could have happened with Chloe and Holly. We didn't have to get that album in 2020. And yeah, sure, maybe they would have wanted to put it out, but I felt like they could have waited. They could have waited until we knew more of what was going on with the whole COVID thing, so they could have had a proper rollout, you know. And then so anyway, going into Chloe's solo career, you know, again, I feel like it was like a lot of experimentation happening. And, you know, and I think she definitely had to push because, again, she is, you know, a Beyonce artist. So, yeah, there are some aspects to her career that is going to be pushed, you know. And of course, like with every interview, I'm bringing up Beyonce. I'm sure it's annoying, but it helps the marketing because let's be real, like if, you know, in the thumbnail, Chloe talks about new album, being signed to Beyonce, and potential dating life. You know, like that in the headline is what's gonna get people clicking. It's probably annoying because you want to be your own artist, but it's your first album, it's your rollout. So of course everybody's gonna tie everything you do to Beyonce. And just you gotta just roll with it and use the name for the marketing for what it is. You know? And and in that, you know, like, okay, cool. You do the interviews, you put out the songs and the music videos, and you know, you're still trying to figure out your wave and figure it out. But I feel like by the time the second album roll around, like after you learn what you learned in the first one, especially the business part, which is what I hope she was learning. And you know, I think from the interview she did with Terrell like a few years ago when that first album was coming out, it seems like she was paying attention to the business stuff. And, you know, like Beyonce was at least teaching her something, you know. It's not like she didn't teach her nothing. So, you know, I give credit to that. I give them credit to that. But still, I feel like there still could have been more done. And like right now, I just feel like I don't know because, you know, I haven't really been following her like that. I know she came out with another album, and a lot of people was like, it wasn't pushed the way it should be. She wasn't really getting like performance bookings. Like she was doing stuff like on social media. And I mean, usually she would. Like I would say, was really good. Like during the time where I was paying attention, I felt like she was really good at promoting on social media. And that was the one thing that Normani lacked. Not comparing, but just observing and stating what is facts. You know, the thing with Normani, I feel like she wanted to be like a more mysterious person because, you know, she was saying she really wasn't into like social media like that. And I feel like she's more of an aesthetic kind of a girl too. Like, you know, I want to be cute on social media and give you like looks and vibes, but I don't want to have to keep like talking to y'all if I don't have to. And, you know, and if I do talk to y'all, it's through the music. But it's like, all right, well, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to put the music out consistently, you know. But, you know, the thing with Chloe, she would get on there and cover people's songs on Instagram and TikTok and all of that. She would do the dance challenges and, you know, and the transition videos and all of that stuff. She would get up there on social media and do that. Like she was really pushing her work and her projects. So I was like, all right, well, if you're going to put the work in, then hey, like shit, go for it. Now, I know that that's something I be struggling with when it comes to social media. So like, you know, I can't completely judge. It's easy for me to get on here and gap because I be having opinions. But for me to do like the artsy creative things, it takes me a while to do that because, you know, I got to put the look together. You know, what song is it going to be? You know, it's like it's a whole thing. And then it's like, how are we going to roll it out? Is there going to be like, and then plus like survival, like, you know, just like basic survival things that like gets in the way of me being able to completely express myself creatively. But again, with these artists that have teams and budgets and, you know, and whatever, and all these resources and outlets and platforms, you know, y'all can figure it out. You know, that's even if you ain't got like the best label and the best team, like you could make something happen, is all I'm saying, you know, but whatever. I mean, and if you're not dealing with like blood sucking vampires, you know, trying to hound you, then I think that you have the means to make something work out of your career. Then, you know, to me, I feel like if that's not what you're dealing with, then there's really not, you know, legitimate blockages. I mean, of course, like there's life things, like people be going through stuff in life, but who don't, you know? But unless you're getting like chased down by like government, you know, secret societies, and maybe that's what's happening actually, because that probably do be happening to some of these artists. But you know, that's a whole nother conversation. We're not going down that route. But I don't know. That maybe that could have been the thing because I was like, I don't know. I feel like somebody putting some roots on the money. I don't know. Seemed like somebody doing some of that spiritual work in somebody's basement. But I don't know. Maybe it could be them secret societies. Who knows? either way, if y'all really want it and you got the talent, man, just go for it. But the point that I was getting to with Chloe is that I feel like she probably needs to break away from her management, as tough it is to say. Because, I mean, like, who wouldn't? If you're a black girl and you sing and you dance even a little bit, who wouldn't want to be signed to Beyonce? When you have, from the outside looking in, and if you don't know shit about the industry, you would think, like, okay, this is an advantageous, you know, opportunity. This is something that's going to propel me. What? Working with the biggest artist ever? Yeah, I want to be signed to this artist. Until you get in the game and you really see what be going on behind the scenes. And then not only that, but you being signed to, again, the biggest artist, are they really going to have the time to focus on you the way they need to focus on themselves? Like, they might give you, some nuggets and some advice and this and that here, but they are very much still an active artist. It'd be one thing if, like, Beyonce was in the point in her career where she was like slowing down and wasn't performing and maybe was just doing her products, but she's a performing artist, and that's pretty much what most people want from her. Like, I mean, of course, like the beehive people are going to be the ones that want and going to spend the money on the products and whatnot. But, like, I feel like Beyonce can't solely rely on products the way Rihanna can. Like, Rihanna, everybody's still hounding that girl for an album. But I feel like Beyonce got to put out an album because she's the best at that, and of all her products, her live performances is the best, and that's just true. But with Rihanna, I mean, we love Rihanna for the music. I mean, people are still asking for the music, and as much as, like, you can argue whether, like, she's a, like, great vocalist or whatever and this and that, but she knows how to put out hits. And even without the music, people love the products that she puts out. Like, like, she has an empire off the products, and that's the easiest thing that you can sell because it doesn't require her to tour the world. Like, she could be a mom, have her pop out her babies, and congrats to her being on baby number 3, you know, and still build this empire without it having to be such a strain on her to, like, make music, go do these interviews, do these radio shows, perform at these award shows, go on tour. Like, I bet that shit is tiring. And she did all of that in her early 20s. She in her 30s now. She already successful. She made her money. And, her and her man, be popping out them babies. And, and I love that for her, but not everybody could do that. And I feel like, as big as Beyonce is, and even though she is the biggest artist out here, you know, I feel like she can't do that like that. I mean, I feel like she came out with like 20 products in the last 3 years, from like the hair care line, the alcohol, whatever else she doing, the perfume or whatever. I'm like, damn, girl, you about to open up a whole market. And I mean, and shit, that's the point, right? But let's be real. The main product that we want from Beyonce is her to be on stage. And that shit is tiring. I know it is. I know she's tired of being on that fucking stage. But girl, that's your fault for being the best performer. Like, ain't nobody asked you to slay the stage like that, but she do. And that's what people want. That's her best commodity, you know? And it's tiring, I bet, because, she's at a point in her career where, like, it can't regress. It can't be like, okay, the performances have to, like, decline now. Like, she's a rare example of someone that continues to get bigger as an artist, and I mean, even with controversies and, negativity or whatever, she's still the biggest artist, even in her 40s, and technically under normal circumstances, this would be like the fall off era. Like, and this would be like her prime would have been like 20 years ago with, the first few albums, or maybe 10 years ago. But she's still performing at the top of her game, and there's still a demand for what she wants, I guess. I don't know, I'm not really following that this much. It's just, it be here. So I do observe some of the things. And, you know, it just so happens that performing is her best commodity. And being that she is very much still an active artist, and, one due to demand, but because she has to be. I feel like she probably wants to like chill out a little bit. But until she actively does that, unless she does something where she intentionally is like, okay, I'm gonna go on a tour that's a little bit more intimate and do smaller, like venues intentionally. Until then, like, everything that she does has to be bigger. So it takes a lot of time and energy to do the choreography, to have different 5 different outfits for every show. She not repeating outfits at this point in her career. I mean, she could, but the standard is too high. The bar is too high. So yeah, you got to have all these designers design these one outfits that we going to see per night. I don't know. Actually, I feel like that was what was going on during Renaissance. It could be a different thing with this Cowboy Carter thing. This not really the way for me. I don't really care, but but I mean, I'm just speaking in terms of like what's happening in the industry in terms of business. But the only reason why I even bring her up and say all this is because she's very much an active artist in music. If she were in a position where she was slowing down as an artist, or backing away from performing, or doing smaller sets and not releasing like albums and projects, then I feel like she would be in a better position to manage somebody. But being, and I mean, at the same time, like, I know it's unfair to say, because like Jay-Z was doing that and he was an artist still, but he backed away from being an artist, and he's, more business focused. Even though he was an artist, managing other artists. But I don't know, just for the type of artist that Beyonce is, like, Jay-Z don't got to worry about doing choreography and learning an 8 count and rehearsing for hours doing that. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying it's not time and energy to what he does, like, to rap. And then if you're going to perform, like, you got to rehearse, make sure the raps is right. But I like, for the level of performing that Beyonce does, there's a lot that goes into it. It's the fashion. It's got making sure the looks is right, the hair is right, the nails is right, the shoes is right, the choreo. Do you got the right dancers? Is this set moving in the background how it's supposed to? Is this screen working? Are the light bulbs in the screen on point? Is this camera getting the angles? And she wants to fly through the fucking sky. Jay-Z's not flying through the sky. He's standing there, he's rapping, he's doing his thing. So I feel like being an artist and then managing other people is not the same as Beyonce being an artist and her being as elaborate as an artist as she is. With that said, I know this is a tangent that I'm kind of on, but I just have to reiterate all the points. With that said, I don't think she has the time to focus on managing other artists. I just don't. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I'm just gonna say the quiet part out loud. And I'm not saying that she can't. And maybe in recording this, maybe we'll see better management for these girls. I don't know. Maybe if this happens to get to Beyonce, maybe she might be inspired. Like, oh, how dare she say this about me? Now watch me be the best manager ever. And then if Chloe and Holly's careers start flourishing a little bit better, then you're welcome. But I say this to say, like, that second album by Chloe came and went. Now, I wasn't checking on it because I wasn't checking for it. But, whether I was checking for it or not, it should have still been like a success. And I'm not saying that it wasn't a success. I don't know if it wasn't. I hear the music was good, and I didn't listen to it. But and for the same, at the same token, I didn't listen to Cowboy Carter either. I don't care to. But respectfully. No, I mean, no shade. It's just like, I don't know. You know, stuff in the music, it just be a lot. And, uh, I'm just not crazy about, like, watching holiday performances with rituals. And, it's just, I got too much discernment and like spiritual awareness and protecting my energy and being intentional about the type of music that like enters my ear gates. to be, wrapped up in, oh my God, this outfit. Yeah, she slayed that choreography. I don't care how good that choreography is. I don't care how good the songs are. Every now and then, I'm not going to lie, if it's playing, and, and I know the runs and I'm going to sing along to it. But like, when you know what you know, and you know how like wicked this industry could be, and I'm not saying that these people are wicked, but, maybe wicked adjacent. Um, I'm not crazy about listening to a lot of the music that's out, just in general. And I just focus more on creating the type of music that I be wanting to hear. Um, but anyway, either way, my point is I feel like Chloe just hasn't been getting the push that she should be getting, because I mean, you see where Beyonce is right now. And, even if you're not paying attention to her, she's still got a lot going on. You got the whiskey thing going on. Like I said, all them products and the album and the tour. Was there a Chloe tour? Maybe it was. Maybe she did a few shows and I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, and of course, I know Chloe is not as big of an artist as Beyonce. And she's still like working on building her name. But I just feel like it's, I don't know. I feel like she had a point where she probably needed new management and to, be somewhere where she can thrive. And, because, okay, I'm actually going to bite my tongue on something. As it pertains to, why I feel like some people were even signed in the first place, you know. And I mean, I don't think she's like intentionally being shelved, but I think her and her sister, I don't know, maybe like represents something. Um, you know, because like they're a newer generation, and they started out, these girls with the natural hair, young girls talented, and they kind of had like the whole like, alternative R&B, like outer space kind of vibe. And when they first came out and started, and like started, and I only say this because like if you look at the album, the kids are all right, and just like the aesthetic of what that was, I don't know, I feel like, and knowing that, Beyonce has said that she wanted to manage artists at some point, so I don't know, maybe this was like a her trying something new type of thing, and feeling like, all right, if my husband could do it, I know I could do it. And sometimes as women we could be like ambitious like that. So I mean, I understand, but I don't know. Maybe there was like a certain like just energy at the time that they represented, Chloe and Holly, and and plus like they were on YouTube doing videos covering the Beyonce songs, and yeah, and just I don't know. Maybe it was just like a like Beyonce bit off more than she can chew type of a thing, and was like, all right, I feel like I can give an opportunity to these girls. And not that they haven't had opportunities, like even Holly having the whole thing with the Disney and, being the Little Mermaid and all of that, you know, that's a big deal, and I know she's, got a lot of hate and flack for it, but it was still a huge success for her. But I don't know. I feel like there could be more done for them girls. And I know it's probably like an in between stage right now. Like, and I think Holly was putting out some songs or whatever. And, I don't know. I just feel like their rollout situations could be better. That's all. That's all I'm saying. And I don't know. Maybe there's some more behind the scenes industry stuff that's happening. Either way, all right. I'm done my tangent. Either way, I feel like the girls deserve more. I feel like they all should be in higher positions if they want to be, because some of them maybe feel insecure about it. Some people maybe, but I feel like Chloe's not a person that like she doesn't strike me as someone that doesn't have work ethic, even though I haven't really been checking for her like that. But when I was, like, she was putting in the work. Like I said, she was on social media. She was promoting her projects, doing all the dance challenges, you know, collabing with other artists, covering other artists' songs, even in the midst of promoting her own music. You know, so she was putting the work in, and it's not like she, you know, wasn't. And she was sharpening her blade. And I think one of her better performances was when she performed at the AMAs like a few years ago. And even her BET performance, not recently, but the one before then, when she did like her medley of songs, I felt like, and it was kind of like a Janet-esque kind of vibe. Um, I feel like that was one of her like better performances. But you know, where was the performances this time, this go around? Beyond the whole like Usher tribute thing. I don't know. But I feel like there could be more done for these R&B girls, because it's not like they not talented. It'd be one thing if like y'all had some people out here that really ain't got it like that, and they was just getting all the push because they labels think they got the look, and you know they could get a hot songwriter to make a hit for them, and they could hum along to some of the notes and you know push that. Like these girls are talented, you know, like them or not. Like they're talented. They're beautiful girls, and I feel like R&B is just, I don't know. It's just not given the way it's supposed to be gave. And when you got people that actually can be like slaying this thing and really at the top of their game, you know, and could potentially be like the next generation legends, you know, but that requires like marketing and, you know, push and budgets from their labels. And if they're not getting that, like what's going on? But but yeah, you know, that's my 2 cents. Um and you know, I don't know. Hopefully, maybe they could get a shift going on, and we'll see more of them. And hopefully, they. I don't know. I mean, then again, I'm still not checking for people respectfully. You know, it's not a shade thing. It's just like I'm really focused on my own situation right now because, like I said, I'm an artist myself. But you know, I do be yapping about this industry, and mainly, and it again, like, and this isn't really coming from a space of shade. It's coming from a space of wanting more for them, you know, and just calling out what I feel like are the discrepancies, and hopefully it could get fixed for them, you know, because like, does it benefit me for them to be successful? Who cares? You know, just like they're black girls, and I want to see black women win. Period. That's it. You know, um, and yeah, like and like I said, I don't need to be defending these artists. And a lot of times I do, and I'm like, if I were in the industry, would they be defending me? Maybe they do. Maybe they are. I don't check on people enough to see. But, you know, I'm not gonna like when I see that people are talented and I feel like they aren't getting their just due and they're not being treated fair, I don't like it and I'm gonna say something. So, yeah. Anyway, and I'm sure these girls know their situation more than I do. So maybe this is something they feel and probably can't say. And of course, like, you know, they don't want to like disrespect their labels and stuff like that, even if they feel like their labels are shitty or if they feel like their management could be better. They can't say it out loud. So I'm going to say it for you. I'm going to say the quiet part for you. And hopefully some shifts and changes happen and y'all get more support that y'all supposed to get. You're welcome. Um, but, and again, it's like, I don't say this to be shady. I don't say this to be like confrontational, but the uncomfortable things usually need to be said in order for changes to be made. For changes to be made. And you know, sometimes it requires like calling shit out that you think could be the problem. And you know, and again, like it's not saying that like Beyonce is a bad manager. I mean, I don't know. I don't know her like that. But I just know that it could be better, you know. But I know her management is solid, and it would be because she's Beyonce and she gonna make sure all her shit is on point. But you know, I'm like just, and I get it. Like it's different when you're managing someone else versus managing yourself because you have your own personal standard of what you see yourself to be. But at the same time, and even in a different industry and being in a different place, like it's the same playbook just on a different scale. Like, all right, put out the album, do these interviews, And now instead of doing like, old school media interviews, maybe doing interviews with podcasters or influencers, still doing the late night performances, book the award show performances, and do a tour. It's the same playbook. And then marketing, of course. Marketing, doing the magazine covers, maybe doing a side quest, like being a part of a movie or something like that. And Chloe has done those things. Like Chloe's been in a few movies and everything too. But I don't know. It's just I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. And I'm sure that there's people behind the scenes that's working and really trying their best, and probably feel like they giving they all or whatever. um and shout out to them people, shout out to the people that's on these girls' teams, and any other artist that's going through this. Shout out to the people that's on their team that's actually putting in the work, because they themselves want to see those girls win. And I'm not saying that they management don't. Maybe they management do want to see them win, but it's just a lot going on. Whatever the situation is, I wish the best for them. I hope it all works out, but that's what I feel like is the issue. And I feel like still, either way, I still stand on the fact that I feel like they deserve better. And we should be seeing more of them. And especially because they're black girls. Because, yeah, I'm always going to ride for black women, period. Even if it requires calling black women out. But out of love, because I just want to see us all win. That's all. All right. That's ultimately the points that I wanted to make, because I started just thinking out loud, and I'm like, I might as well just live record this, live stream these points. And yeah, and that's my perspective and opinions, because I have a lot of them. But what do I know? I'm just a girl from Jersey. I'm not in this industry, just casually holding it up with my soul. Um and you know, just patiently waiting for reparations. But yeah. Anyway, but that's conspiracy. Conspiracy facts. All right, y'all. I hope you're entertained. Have a good night. Much love.